Many viewers, particularly you out there in Western New York, probably recall all too well that fateful night in February 2009 when Flight 3407 crashed into a house outside of Buffalo, killing 50 people. Both of the pilots were later found to be significantly sleep deprived. And after that tragedy, the FAA started ramping up regulations aimed at reducing pilot fatigue. Congress mandated August 1st as a deadline for these revamped rules, and that was 2 weeks ago. The release has now been pushed back at least until November 22nd. Congressional representatives from Western New York want to know what the holdup is, particularly my next guest. She is the delegation's newest member, Congresswoman Kathy Hochul, and she is joining me now from Buffalo. Congresswoman, thanks very much for being here.
My pleasure.
So it seems to me that the holdup has to do with opposition from the charter and cargo airlines. Is that your understanding as well?
It doesn't matter. In my judgment, we were expecting these rules to come out on August 1st. That's what the American people were promised, as well as the families who fought so hard for these reforms. So I don't care what the reason is. All I know is that August 1st came and went without the resolution we expected a year ago when the law was first enacted. And now we're being told November 22nd. I put a call in to the director of the Office of Management and Budget to find out exactly why there is a delay. So I'm fully expecting them to release it shortly. But we're going to be very vigilant and pressing for this, which is why, as a team, Congresswoman Slaughter, Congressman Higgins, and I are putting a full court press on this issue, because every day that goes by without these reforms in place, our people are in danger when they get on those airplanes.
Okay, so that's quite clear. I think that everybody understands who flies or might be flying or has friends or family that flies, knows that they don't want somebody who's too tired to fly a plane who is in charge, right? But the question here is, should cargo and charter pilots actually be subject to different rules? Would you be okay with that if they, in fact, are not held to the same restrictions as commercial pilots?
I don't want them being tired either, because they could easily crash into a home just as easily as the pilots of the 3407 did. So I don't think there should be different standards. I don't want them being sleep deprived, carrying cargo, and putting the rest of us people on ground or other people at an airport or other planes in the air at risk. So to me, there's no difference.
But at a time when we're talking about a focus on the economy, these guys are saying, well, there would have to be roughly a 40% increase in pilots. It would cost us a lot of money. We might not be able to get goods from point A to point B as quickly, and that would have a drain on an already limping economy.
I put a premium on safety. I believe that they'll find a way to work through those problems that they may have, and I think that for their security and the viability of their own industry, they're going to want to make sure that the cargo gets there safely and that their own pilots should not be sleep deprived as well. So I don't buy the argument.
So then what's this about? I mean, this is obviously about, at the end of the day, it's got to be about money. I mean, do you hold the White House at all responsible? Because it seems to me that they were the ones who were lobbied the hardest, the Office of Management and Budget, and now we find ourselves, as you noted, waiting for this deadline that has now come and gone, and we don't even know when it's going to be.
Well, we have been told November 22nd.
Okay.
If we did not have a firm date, that this was just put into limbo, I'd be more concerned. But having worked in Washington before, it's not unusual that an agency would take longer than the allotted time frame to come up with rules and regulations.
Sure.
Now, again, that's not an excuse I accept. It should have been August 1st, but they are now telling us November 22nd. Again, I have a phone call in to confirm that they are holding to that date, and I said, even that date's too far off. I want to know why they're not in place now. So if we find out November 2nd, 22nd comes and goes without a resolution, or that there's been a lobbying effort mounted against these, they're going to have to deal with some pretty upset Congress people who represent this area, and they really shouldn't want to go there.
They shouldn't. The industry shouldn't want to go there, or the White House shouldn't want to go there. Which one? Or everybody?
No, nobody. I mean, truly, these are reforms that these families fought passionately for. They make sense. They should have been in place years ago, and we fully expect them to be implemented. And I'd like them implemented now. We'll wait until November 22nd if necessary. But there's going to be no excuse that I accept from anyone in the administration or the industry as to why these are not in place very shortly.
It's actually, when you look at it, kind of crazy that it took this long to get here. And some of these things, I mean, you're talking about 13 hours instead of 16 hours. That still seems like kind of a long time to be working if you're piloting, you know, several hundred people in a gigantic piece of machinery.
I agree with that. And also this argument that it's going to result in all these extra expenses and, you know, the economic arguments, I'm not buying it. I prefer my pilots get at least 13 hours of sleep at minimum. Just like you want to have your doctors alert when they're operating on people, I want my pilots alert when they're flying planes or cargo. So again, this would be in the no-brainer category. That doesn't always happen in Washington, but I just wanted everyone to know that we are watching very, very closely between Higgins, Slaughter, and Hochul. We're all over this issue, and we will not rest until they give us what we were promised a year ago when the law was first enacted.
Do you think about this when you get on a plane? I mean, now obviously you're commuting. Are you thinking about it at all?
Absolutely. I mean, this is, we are going out of the airport that this plane was expected to land in. I mean, the families of the people who were waiting at the airport with open arms for a Valentine's Day weekend in 2009. We know so many of the families and their victims. So this is a very personal crisis for us up here, and how can you go to the airport and not have this on your mind? But I applaud those families. They did not let up. They went and lobbied Washington and got reforms that no one dreamed would be impossible. So they get credit for what's already happened, and we need to carry it all the way across the finish line on behalf of them and in the memory of those victims.
So I just, before I let you go, I want to ask you, you are obviously on quote-unquote vacation. You're back in the district, of course. And I've been looking, I've seen your schedule, so you're not actually not working. You've been doing a lot of local events. What are you hearing from people in the district? And are they as frustrated now as they were with Washington when you first got home?
I'd say they're just as angry as they were a couple weeks ago, and I know this because literally every day I'm having Congress on Your Corner, which is a daytime town hall meeting. And I've been all over my district, particularly the heartland of the district, of the rural Republican areas, and I tell you, they are so fed up with Washington, and they want to know what's going to be different when we go back after Labor Day. I don't know the answer right now. I know we're putting our faith in a 12-member commission right now, but they better get it right, because none of us want to go back to these people on our next break and say we didn't get the job done, just like we failed miserably during the month of July to get this debt ceiling issue resolved in a way that would not have taken our country to the brink the way we did. That was unexcusable, unconscionable, and the American people do not expect us to do that again. So I've pledged that I'm going to try and work hard with reasonable people on the other side of the aisle and fellow Democrats who know that we went too far, that this country cannot sustain this. Look what happened to the economy. People's 401k plans may never be the same again as a result of Congress's inability to work together. So people are frustrated, they're angry, and they're very intolerant right now.
Just before I let you go, there was briefly a standoff on the FAA and funding for the FAA. Did that, which got temporarily resolved actually, there needs to be a long-term solution as with the debt ceiling, did that have any impact at all on the delay of these pilot fatigue rules, do you know?
I'm not aware that there was a connection between the two, Liz, but I do know that it was inexcusable for us to leave Washington at the time we did and not have resolved that with 4,000 people's jobs in the balance and millions of dollars in construction projects, even up in our own districts here, that were held at bay. And at a time we need to have people getting back to work because Congress couldn't get their act together. It's got to stop. The American people's tolerance, they're fed up with us, and we've got to stop holding issues like that in the balance, and also make sure that we put these resolutions in place, such as the pilot safety, which is long overdue. We're coming at that one when we get back to Washington, so they better beware.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, we will catch up with you on this. Obviously, if November 22nd comes and goes without this one, I pity those people,
oh.
Congresswoman.
It won't
I really
be pretty,
do.
Liz. It won't be pretty.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.